Hello and welcome to World Talks here on TVP World. I'm Diana Skaya. Tensions between the European Union and the United States are reaching a boiling point, especially following President Trump's threats of tariffs on European goods. Now, in response, EU leaders have issued a clear message that the Union will not back down from unfair treatment. Now, with the U.S. demanding more from its allies while appearing to turn inward, the future of transatlantic relations hangs in the balance. Now, to get into this more and what this means for EU strategy, I'm joined by Piotr Maciej Kaczyński, EU expert at the Warsaw-based Geremek Foundation. Piotr, so good to have you back here on World Talks here this morning.
Welcome to be back.
All right, so it's definitely a heated debate here. I mean, it's causing quite a stir here in Europe, the uncertainty especially. Now, Ursula von der Leyen said that the EU would respond. Poland's Premier Donald Tusk said the same thing, that Europe should be ready. Now, what is this message to Trump that is coming from Brussels, from EU leaders? And do you think that Trump, first of all, cares at all?
Of course he cares. So the message is very clear. We stay united. And we are united not only among European Union member countries, including Giorgia Meloni, best friend of Mr. Trump, including Viktor Orban, who participated in this informal summit on Monday. And the message is super clear. We are united to defend our interests, but we are also considering United States to be our top ally, top friend. So let me just give you two figures. Increase of military spending in EU between 2021 and 2024, plus 30%. And second figure, the equipment that is bought into European arms between 2019 and 2023, 55% comes from the United States. So who is to benefit from this increased budget on military spending in the years to come? US. Primarily.
Precisely, Piotr, but I mean, that was my next question to you, is that do you think that the White House is actually trying to, in a way here, blackmail the EU into buying US energy and weapons? Is that like a fair assessment?
It's like a bluff. It's like a bluff. Look what happened with Mexico and Canada. Both were like frozen on one day, that Canada, you're bad. Mexico, you're bad. China, you're bad. You're in the same category.
But only for 30 days.
For 24 hours. Within 24 hours, both Mexico and Canada got lifted their visa.
But for 30 days, for
yes,
a month to see if what Trump wants, of course, he wants to secure the borders. When Canada decides to stop fentanyl going in, right? To see how that...
Yes, but what happens during the 30 days? Right now, there will be diplomats talking between the Canadian and Mexican diplomats talking with American diplomats. So the president is out of the picture. Right now, we talk business. The business being real figures, real imports, that Canadian, for example, oil exports to United States are actually subsidized. They are below world level of pricing. So they just have to talk business now.
At a meeting in Warsaw, EU trade ministers agreed that they would prefer dialogue over a trade war with the United States. And the Polish Minister of Development says that on the topic of trade, he expects a precise message from Washington. What do you think that this means?
That means exactly the same story. We are united. We are ready to have this dialogue. We will take the bluff. And then talk business with the Americans. Because America did not do to Europe what it did to Canada and Mexico and China on the same day, we are in a little bit privileged position because we know what happened. We can expect this to be a bluff. So we'll see what happens. And the biggest threat out there would be for US to differentiate between European nations. So the message coming from...
Is that a possibility?
It's still there somewhere, but the message from both Brussels and Warsaw this week is that we are united. So whether it is, I don't know, telecoms in Ireland or the Italian wine sector, we are united and we are still behind both of those.
Would you say that Trump is using this more of a geopolitical strategy?
there's a big hello, and then we need
as
to
Tusk
see.
said, that it's like a political rhetoric, right? These are the words he
I mean,
used.
this is what is going on with Greenland. We see that this ongoing debate about we need Greenland to what? To become U.S. territory? Or is it truly about something else? This something else being Chinese, Russian investments in the Arctic and Chinese investments on Greenland soil.
Not only Greenland, but I mean, yesterday,
Gaza. Yeah.
Benjamin Netanyahu was with Donald Trump, and just like you mentioned, I mean, Trump mentioned that the United States would take over Gaza. Can you comment on that?
Let me put it this way. This is another bluff. So a big statement like this, and let's see what are the details of this American proposal beyond what Trump has been saying. You cannot so easily remove millions of people. This is not 1920s where you have exchange of populations, the dramatic ones between Greece and Turkey, Armenian genocide, and all other topics out there. This is 2020s, and right now this is simply inconceivable.
Do you think that, though, in a way, Trump is going to listen to what Ursula von der Leyen said, to what the premiers here are saying, or will he still kind of go and...
Of course he will listen. He respects power. He respects power to the degree that he will engage. So, for example, take China.
He respects power, or does he want power? And
both. It's both. He's a powerful individual. America is a powerful nation, and he respects other great powers. This is the source of respect coming from the White House towards Putin, towards China, and towards the EU. Also, Canada and Mexico, incidentally.
Piotr, let me ask you this. If the U.S. does become less engaged in European defense, what specific steps do you think that the EU should take to fill that gap? Can Europe really defend itself without relying on the United States? It's a little bit of a tough
It's a tough square to complete, because we need capacities now. So in order to get the capacities, we need the funding. So the big discussions in Europe right now is about funding. We already increased the spending by 30% over the last couple of years, but it's still not enough. But then from whom are we buying it? Are we able to build it ourselves? The industry is there, but the capacities of producing those weapons are not necessarily there. This is why we need to engage with our partners, and the United States is number one. Half of our arms are American, and they are probably one of the best in the world.
But again, if the European Union would have to rely on itself and outside the U.S., what are steps?
Time is in factor. Time. We need time. For example, Airbus, a big manufacturer for anything that flies, needs time to make those production lines capable of producing whatever the orders are. When Germany had a debate about investing into the German military a couple of years ago, the planning was that it takes a decade to fulfill first commissions. So if you commission today, deliveries a couple of years down the road, then we don't have the time, and that's the real problem here.
On the 6th and 7th of February, the College of Commissioners are due to meet with members of the Polish government, Piotr, to participate in discussions about different themes, of course, tailored to the Polish presidency. What can you tell us about that? And also, there is word we have here that European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen will be present. Is there anything, any confirmations you can give us, and anything that you could tell us about this meeting?
So the context is interesting, because it's supposed this is a customary visit. This is a customary visit every 6 months. Entire college comes to the country that holds the presidency of a council. It's supposed to have happened early January, but von der Leyen was sick. She got a flu. She ended up in a hospital for a couple of days or weeks, and therefore this meeting was postponed, and right now it's taking place. So that's the context, why it's taking place in February, not a month before. But now the politics begins, and the politics is very crucial and very important, because since 20th of January, we do have Mr. Trump in the White House, and the context right now is there. So you'll have presidency of the council with Prime Minister Tusk and his government meeting entire college of commissioners the moment that Trump is probably going to announce the sanctions on European Union. So this is the perfect situation for both the Polish voice and the European coordinated response to be ready.
I'm going to cut you off right there. There's something you said. So you're confirming that Trump will announce this?
I have no idea when exactly, but he already announced that he is going to announce sanctions against the European Union.
He did that with Canada and Mexico, and then, like you said in the beginning, he put a halt to that because they were able to negotiate. I mean, he's a negotiator, right? So he wants to find some kind of deal. What do you give me? What do I give you? So is there any way that possibly at this meeting, maybe that could be discussed as to what, what can be put on the table, on that negotiating table to kind of put a stop to that?
If you follow the European discussions or European top leaders discussing issues and responses to Americans, every week they provide a little bit answer, or there's more ammunition, if you like. You have Maroš Šefčovič, just the trade commissioner, just pronouncing all this arsenal of our tools to engage with the Americans. There are instruments, there is issues. This is the biggest, Transatlantic is the biggest trading bloc in the world. And depending how you read the figures, they can be read positively or negatively for one or the other side. On goods, it's a different story. On services, America has a bigger advantage over European Union with, those big tech companies, for example. So the European response, where the Europeans can hit hard against Americans, is probably in the service sector, something which is very important to US because this is one of the biggest companies out there in the United States economy these days.
Piotr, the fact that this rift between the United States and China, this trade rift that's happening, I mean, they're slapping each other with these
sanctions.
With sanctions, that's what you can call it. How do you think that the European continent is going to be affected by this, and of course Poland?
Yeah, this is the one thing that we don't discuss as much, that is what is happening out. If we take Trump out of the equation, there is a trade war going on between China and US. Punto. China and US just introduced sanctions against each other. The Canadian are postponed, the Mexican are postponed, the European didn't come yet. But the one between US and China are effectively there. Which are economies number 1 and number 2 in the world. Therefore, our trade with China, our European trade with China is very important. I read one of the comments here in Warsaw the other day, which says, if Chinese are unable to export to US, whatever it is, solar panels, cars, what have you, they need new markets. Will they export even more to Europe because they cannot export to the United States? Question mark. We do not know exactly what will be the effects of those sanctions on Europe, but there will be some effects on markets at least.
Thank you so much, Piotr Maciej Kaczyński, for being with us here on World Talks today.
Thanks for having me.
And that's all for this edition of World Talks here on TVP World. I'm Diana Skaya. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for more news with Klaudia Czerwińska up next.